Just sorry to cut you short. If you can hear me, you've said that you tried that arrest, and yes, we all know that that obstruction happened. So what, as the spokesperson of the EFCC, what moves are you making to continue, you know, in that vein, since you feel that there is something you need to arrest him for? Is it enough to say you are obstructed in a society like ours? What next?
It is enough to say we are obstructed because he also works for a law enforcement agency, but our mantra is that nobody is above the law. Though there was a momentary setback, it does not mean that the Commission has resigned itself into self-pity that we are no longer going to proceed. We are simply waiting for the right moment to effect that arrest and arrest warrant, because a warrant has been issued by a competent court of the land.
Mr. Uja, if I may come in here, when would be the right moment?
The right moment will come. I cannot on television tell you when the right moment will come, but I know that if you want to deal with an agency who also have arms, it is not, we are not going to go there and start fighting ourselves. There has to be some talking behind the scenes for this to be accomplished, but I'm fully convinced that at the right moment, reason will prevail and the mandate of the Commission will be executed.
I think this brings us back to what Mr. Dehe was talking about. For this particular official, we have talking going on behind the scenes before he can be arrested. But for the average Nigerian who is supposed to be arrested, or perhaps there's a case against him, how much talking behind the scene goes on when they try to effect arrest? Isn't that what we're looking at here?
But it's quite obvious that nobody is above the law. Those who obstructed us violated the law, and that is the point I'm making, that every Nigerian is subject to the law. And so if people violate the law, it is incumbent for us citizens across board to condemn what happened. And I know that where many citizens have already condemned what happened, it is not acceptable, and we all realize that. That is the point I'm making. There is nobody, no matter who you are, you are not above the law. There are only 4 categories of public officers that have immunity in this country, and that is the president and the vice president, governors and their deputies. That immunity also does not even prevent them from being investigated. They can be investigated. It's only prosecution that you cannot go ahead and prosecute them while they are in office. So what happened in the case of NIA and DSS is quite something that is not acceptable within this climate, and that is already appreciated by everybody in this country.
Mr. Uja, is the EFCC overwhelmed?
Not at all. We are absolutely not overwhelmed. More than ever before, the Commission is committed to fighting corruption. At no time in the history of this Commission, we are about 14 years old now. I can tell you that in the last 2 years, what has happened in the EFCC has never happened before. The Commission has fought corruption vigorously more than ever before.
So you're not concerned,
who is ever committed.
You're not concerned about the bill passed by the Senate, the NFIA bill that somewhat limits the operations of the EFCC. You're not concerned about that? No,
I don't think the NFIU bill limits the power of the EFCC. I think there's a misconception about what NFIU is and what it's not about. People tend to think that once you remove the NFIU from the EFCC, then the EFCC cannot do its work again. That is absolutely not correct. The NFIU, yes, is relevant in collecting intelligence and analyzing those intelligence and making it available to law enforcement agencies. But it does not mean that without the NFIU that the EFCC cannot function. The EFCC can function. It was functioning before FIU, and even if FIU is taken away, it will continue to function. But having said that, it's also very important for Nigerians to know that what is going on concerning the NFIU calls for concern. For the first time in the history of our country, we have a law that was passed within 1 week in the National Assembly. This is a National Assembly that, if we look back, we can recollect that that assembly has never supported the fight against corruption as people would have expected. But now when the NFIU matter came, within a week, a law was passed. That should raise suspicion. People think that in taking away the NFIU from the EFCC, they will be undermining the fight against corruption being spearheaded by the EFCC. That is the single motivation behind the speed with which this new law was passed. But having said that, the EFCC remains the foremost institution in fighting corruption in Nigeria, with or without the NFIU.
Okay, Mr. Wujaran, I'll take you back to that matter of the obstructed attempt to arrest the former NIA boss and the former DSS boss. Why would those people obstruct you from doing your job?
I think the question also is, why is it so difficult? I think the question is, sorry, if I could put the question to you, why is it so difficult for that to happen? And if you tell us it's not in your place, you are the spokesperson of the EFCC, and the person who is trying to be arrested is one who has been a senior person in that agency, let me put it that way. In whose place will it be then for us to ask?
No, the point I'm making that it's not in my place to explain why the NIA or DSS will obstruct the EFCC. It's for those agencies to explain why they obstructed the commission. It is not for EFCC to do that explanation. And the point is that we didn't go there to do what is not legal. We didn't go there to do what the law did not ask us to do. The commission went there in furtherance of its mandate to fight economic and financial crime. We had valid court warrants to do what we set out to do. So there was nothing illegal, nothing arbitrary about our activities.
But that begs another question. If you had a
carried out actions.
If you had a court warrant, you were armed with one as well, does it not worry you to some extent that armed with a court warrant and carrying out your business, which you say is legal, you were not able to do that?
Yes, indeed, you should commend the EFCC that we didn't even take the law into our hands, because we believe that we are a law-abiding institution, which was why we stepped back. Because if we had proceeded, there could have been bloodshed.
Okay, Mr. Hare, this matter of the EFCC and the court judgment or court warrants that they have and restrictions, how does that tie up in the legal space?
For me, like I said, it's a huge joke when you say you're fighting corruption and you have somebody who gave you information on somebody who has committed a crime, and you've gotten the money, you've paid the person who gave you information, and you cannot arrest the accused person. It's a huge joke. Okay. For me, what the EFCC should do is to ask the government to give them the requisite political will. If this government wants to fight corruption, they should fight corruption. Why should the EFCC have problems arresting one or two people? Recall, DSS went after judges, they brought down their doors, brought down their whatever, and arrested them.
I was even going to get to that, because we are looking at the judiciary and the EFCC.
Yes.
We've seen the appeal court come out to say that the NJC should have their first say before. Is that in the spirit of fighting corruption? Where do you stand on that particular matter?
That is the law. That is the position of the law. The NJC is the body created to first investigate judges, like have some kind of trial for them. And when the NJC is satisfied that this judge or Judge A or B is been found wanting, indicted in some way, the NJC would now ask that that judge be suspended, as it were, probably even retired. A number of them have been retired in that breath. Then the legal criminal process can then kick off. That is the proper thing to do. Instead of having you go and break down doors of judges and take them to court, only for them to be discharged, even in court.
We're going to have to leave it at that point. Legal practitioner, Mr. Osahon Ihehe, thank you for joining us on the program. And I'm also going to thank you, Mr. Wilson Uwajera, the EFCC spokesperson, for joining us on the program as well. And we really need to move on, Nancy.
Yes, indeed. We'll take a moment, and when we come back, we'll be looking at some of the aspects of what happened in 2017.